Okay, so last few days I've been thinking a little bit about faith and matters around faith and religion and those sort of topics, which are very, very profound. I think you could almost overwhelm yourself if you think about them too much. Um, I wanted to share an anecdote here, a personal anecdote. And my reason for doing this is just maybe to get people to reflect on why faith can't be so easily dismissed. Now, to be clear here, I'm not trying to say that this proves anything. I'm not trying to say that the way I felt is the way other people feel or the way they should feel. But it's just an honest personal recollection about something that I went through. And yeah, I'll talk about the experience first and then a few more comments on it. So, about 7 years ago, when I was in China, the first time I've been to China twice, I had some free time when I was in the summer camp there. This was in the south of China, a beautiful part of the country, Guangxi region. And there's a lot of rivers around there. So I decided I'd go for a swim. It was quite a popular thing to do with the sort of teachers and staff around there. It was like quite close to the training center and our company headquarters, I should say. It was a very sort of beautiful, kind of relaxed place. But anyway, I thought I'd just go for a swim. And I kind of estimated the distance of the river to be about 50 meters. And I thought, okay, it's a little bit challenging, but I can do that. I'm an okay swimmer. I'd rank myself as average, an average swimmer. I'm not very strong. And I should say I was smoking at the time, so that probably didn't help in terms of my lung capacity. But anyway, I started swimming, no problem. There weren't particularly strong currents or anything like that. Bear in mind, this is well inland. This is nowhere near the sea. This is about 1,000 kilometers from the sea. Um, and it's all fine. The water is quite calm and swimming. Then I get to a point where I start getting a little bit tired. And I kind of look up over the water surface and I realize there's still quite a long way to go. So I go a bit further. My arms are getting really tired at this point. And then I look up and I think, whoa, there's quite a bit left. And I feel below and it's deep. And at that point, I started getting quite scared. Now, what I should have done was just relax because our bodies are naturally quite buoyant. So I should have just relaxed, take a bit of a breather, regained energy. That's what I should have done. But truthfully, I panicked and I was scared. And I tried swimming a bit further, but at this point, my arms were just like jelly, they were out. Um, and clearly, I wasn't as good a swimmer as I thought I was. And I was genuinely quite scared. And something came to me. I prayed, or at least I remember calling on God. That's what I done. Anyway, there were a couple on the other side. They threw a rubber ring. I got to the other side. I got my breath back. I needed quite a long rest. And when it came to going back again, because there was no easy way around the river. Um, the guy was a good swimmer. It's kind of embarrassing actually. His girlfriend kind of sat in the ring. I held on to it. It was a bit of an embarrassing situation, but rather be embarrassed than um, you know, lose your life. I'd actually had a near drowning experience before when I was 12. It was an area of Northern Ireland called the Featherbeds, and basically I went out too far, got dragged out by the tide, and a surfer basically saved me. So, what's my point with this? Well, firstly, I was profoundly grateful. Would I have drowned? It's hard to know. I was scared, I was panicking. Had the couple not been there, had I not sort of forced myself into a practical sense of just relax, relax, and then when you get the energies, just go to the other side. There must have been about another 15, 20 meters. I probably could have done it if I'd just relaxed. But my frame of mind, I wasn't relaxing, and that can make things worse. And I could have drowned. I don't think it's an exaggeration. People do drown when they panic. Um, and I didn't. Now, I'm not saying that God intervened. Obviously, the couple was there. They heard my shouts in English. They read the situation. But this is the point I want to highlight. In those moments when I thought my time was up, it certainly wasn't an atheist mindset that I had. I certainly didn't think, oh, well, I could die. It's terrible, but I'll be buried, and it's just science. My body will go to the earth. That's it. Or be cremated. No, I called for God. I called for God. And I'm not saying this, I'm not a born again Christian or a Jehovah's Witness or anything like that. I don't even call myself a Christian, right? I'm not that religious. It's something that I've briefly touched on in other videos. I'm spiritual, I'm somewhat agnostic, but this experience is why I don't call myself an atheist. For one thing, if I had an experience like that and I called to God, I couldn't really turn around and say, oh, well, it's all rubbish, it's all fairy tales. That would make me a hypocrite. But there has to be something in that. Now, maybe it's just a cultural thing because millions of people find comfort in faith. So maybe it's something in that. I don't know. All I know is that at that moment when I genuinely thought I was going to die, I mean, this was more than fear. I really did think that it was a deep fear. I thought my time was up, and I called to God. Not loudly, it was like a subconscious thing, but I did. Now, I don't know if that experience made me a better person or not. Um, I think I could always be a better person. I try to be a decent person. But, with the greatest of respect to atheists, whilst I totally appreciate their argument, this is the thing with atheism. It's entirely based on empirical evidence, right? Follow the science. What's the evidence of this? What's the evidence of that? What's the truth? And that's a very strong argument. But I don't think that there is really an answer for spirituality. Science can explain the how how something works, why something, science can explain almost anything. Well, it can explain atoms, it can explain um, the central nervous system, it can explain why we get anxiety, why we get certain signals to our brain. It can explain all the practical things, all of that. But I still would contend that it doesn't say why. Why have human beings developed a conscience the way we have, far more advanced than any other species? If life is just about we live on Earth, we procreate, we have families, we eat, we drink, we sleep, that's it. Now, that might be all there is. There might well be no heaven. There probably isn't. And that is the atheist perception. But aside from the fact it brings no comfort, and that's a very personal opinion, I just find no comfort from the idea that when we die, that's it. So the idea of an afterlife might be absolutely the fantasy, but it's a comforting one. I remember a line in the BBC film The Silver Chair, based on the C.S. Lewis Narnia series. It was the fourth or fifth novel in the series. There's a bit where Puddleglum, if you know the film, like a little bit of background here, Puddleglum is sort of one of the creatures from this world. He's kind of half man, half frog, and anyway, it's not important. The point is, his character is in this underworld ruled by the Wicked Queen, along with the children in the story, and she enchants them to believe that that's the only world there is. And he says, "Well, madam, it may well be that the world above is all fantasy, but but my fantasy world makes your real world ring hollow. Now, of course, C.S. Lewis was a Christian writer, so there was certainly Christian overtones in his work, but I like that. I think there's something in that. So by recounting this experience, I'm not saying that it's proof of anything. I'm just saying that it's not just my experience. The number of people who find faith in their dying moments, it's profound, and I don't think that can be dismissed. Or not necessarily find faith, but somehow faith comes into it. Today is the 19th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. I am convinced that a lot of those people on the towers would have been praying in their final moments. And I'm not trying to say anything insensitive about those who weren't, but it's just one example. You can find that in many other disasters and human tragedies and catastrophes. When someone's on their deathbed and they get a priest or a minister to give last rites, can that be so easily dismissed? Atheists can laugh at this stuff, or they can ridicule it. Fine. But all I'm saying is that empirical evidence, important as it is it everything? Does that account for the nature of spirituality? I don't think it does. So I'm not saying this is a pro-religion video. Like I say, there's a lot of things about organized religion I don't like. There's a lot of contradictions in biblical teachings. A lot. And that's why I don't endorse organized religion. But it's also why I don't endorse atheism. So this one's quite personal. It's people could disagree, they can try to nitpick what I've said here. That's how I felt. And nothing changes that. Whatever anyone says, I know how I felt at that time, and it's something to think about. Let me know if you've had a similar experience. Like maybe you're like me, you're not particularly religious, but there was a time when you were close to death and and you prayed or something spiritual happened. Let me know your thoughts.